Hey guys, it's Brandon Miniman from PocketNow.com. I've spent the weekend with the new iPad and I wanted to tell you what I love and what I hate about it. Let's get to it now. Alright, so let's start with the hate list. There are 3 or 4 things that I really dislike about the new iPad. Number 1, the display. The display seems to have lower brightness than the iPad 2. In fact, if you adjust both iPads to around the same level of brightness, it seems that the iPad 2 actually has more brightness, or at least you need to turn up the iPad 3's brightness to a higher degree to get the same level of brightness than you would need on the iPad 2 on a lower degree. Another thing that's a little bit annoying, something I don't really like, is the warmth. It's been increased on the new iPad, meaning it's more yellow rather than more blue, as found on the iPad 2, and it's just a matter of personal preference, but I actually like it a little bit cooler. They did the same thing between generations of the iPhone. They made it from cool to warm, and now iPhone screens are actually pretty warm. Another thing that has gotten worse between the iPad 2 and the iPad 3 is the viewing angle. The iPad 2 had an incredible viewing angle from really every direction. It's slightly worse on the new iPad. It's not a deal breaker because you're probably not going to be looking at your iPad from a dramatic degree, but it's just something to think about. Another thing I really dislike about the new iPad, I'd probably call this the number 1 thing I dislike about it, is its size and weight. Yes, it's only a millimeter thicker than the iPad 2, and it's just slightly heavier, but when you're holding a tablet for a while, reading a newspaper or a magazine, it really makes a difference. One day in the future, we're going to have tablets that are really just a piece of glass. It's probably many years away because battery technology is so far from it, but one day holding a tablet computer to your face to read a magazine or newspaper is going to feel as lightweight and easy and thin as a current magazine that you would get off the store shelves. Right now it still feels like you're holding a hunk of metal, and the iPad 3 is worse than the iPad 2 in this department. Another thing that's super annoying about the iPad 3 is how long it takes to get a full charge. The iPad 2 would take about 3 hours to get from 0 all the way up to 100, which was fantastic. The iPad 3 takes about 7 hours to charge, which is not that big of a deal if you don't mind charging overnight, but if you wake up in the morning and you're at 2% and you want to use the iPad during the day, well, you got to keep it on the charger for 7 hours, and by the time it's done charging, you're already home from work, and who cares? So charging time is a big pain on the new iPad, but that's because they had to use a lot more battery to be able to power the quad-core GPU and to be able to power the 3.1 million pixels on the screen. Now let's talk about the things that I love about the new iPad. Certainly there is a lot to love, starting with the screen. The screen is so crisp and clear. I mentioned this in the unboxing that it's starting to look, or it's gotten to the point where it looks like a printed magazine or printed newspaper. If you go to a magazine on your local newsstand and look at the text, you can't see pixels because it's printed at such a high DPI. It looks painted on the page. It looks beautiful. The iPad, the new iPad, is able to recreate this sensation. Unfortunately, apps are still getting updated, so there's a lot of apps out there that cannot take advantage of the higher resolution on the screen, like the Wall Street Journal app, but obviously over time this will change. Another thing I really like about the new iPad is the LTE. It's great to be able to take the new iPad to a coffee house or anywhere where there's LTE and get faster than Wi-Fi data speeds, which just means you tap on a link, boom, the page opens faster. You tap on another link, boom. You're watching a YouTube video, it streams instantly. It just means a little bit less waiting time, but it also means a hit to battery life. You're going to get worse battery life when you're running on LTE, but that's certainly expected. Keep it on Wi-Fi as much as you possibly can. So it might sound like I hate more about the new iPad than I love, and that might actually be the case. The new iPad is exactly what you would expect. It's a thicker, heavier iPad 2 with a better display and LTE. Period. There are no surprises here. The screen, yes, it's absolutely beautiful. It's great to have LTE, but it's not as revolutionary and breakthrough as you would expect for a product to come from Apple. Now, of course, they can't always release a revolutionary product, but to be honest, this makes me really want to wait for the iPad 4, because the iPad 4 is probably going to have the same great features as the iPad 3, but they're finally going to figure out a way to make it thinner and lighter, which is very much needed in a device that you spend hours reading with. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, and we're going to have even more coverage of the new iPad, I keep calling it the iPad 3, coming up soon. Thanks for watching.